Welcome back. We are here, another edition of Fight Court. I'm Dean Thomas, alongside with my co-host Ryan Quinn, fresh off of UFC 323, the final pay-per-view. You'll never have to pay, well, at least that's what they're saying. You'll never have to pay for another fight again, which would be good. Just get the Paramount Plus subscription. Ryan, did you happen to catch the action last night?
I did. First, I don't know. It's a little emotional. I won't be able to hit send from give the UFC my $80 anymore. A little different feeling. But I was back and forth. It was conference championship weekend in college football. So in the beginning, I was kind of flipping back and forth there. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on. But then the main card I was watching, I watched the main card, and lots to unfold here. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't see was going to happen. What about you? What'd you think of the fights?
Just right off the bat, just when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen it all. Like, MMA is such a crazy, wild sport, and there's so many different variables and layers that you can never predict it. You could have never predicted last night to happen. And the bigger the fight, the more that's at stake in fights, the crazier the outcomes are. You just can never predict it. And the whole card last night was unpredictable. The main event, not that the main event was unpredictable, it was not what anybody expected to happen. The co-main event, unpredictable. So let's get into the main event first. Did you see that coming? Did you see Petr Yan being able to shut Merab down this way?
No, and the bad side of having a podcast is people look back at your previous episode the week before, and they could totally. I could not disagree with you. If you look back at that, you said I was full of shit on my fight IQ because I did not see that happening at all. I think I said, well, the lack of volume is always what hurts Petr Yan, and that's what's going to kill him in this fight. And he kept the volume up so well, and it's not like he came out like a bat out of hell. Just when he was staying straight down the middle, but with his combinations, he was 3-4, 3-2, 3-5 punches just to keep Merab at bay. And then when he started to open up on the body, it was just brilliant game plan. Brilliant. He kept the fight at his range, and I didn't think he was going to be able to do that, and got the takedowns no less. Yeah, I did not see that happening.
It's crazy. For all the people that know Merab, they say the same thing. It's, Merab's not the best. He's not the best wrestler. He's not the best striker. He's not the best jiu-jitsu guy. So there's holes. Obviously, he's just the best at putting it all together.
Yeah.
And last night, Petr Yan was able to expose everything that's not great about Merab.
That's the word.
And I've always said this, like, everybody says, oh, wrestling's the best base to have because you can dictate where the fight is. But to me, it's like, it doesn't matter where the fight is if you're better than them there. And that's kind of what Petr Yan did last night, was that he was the better striker, the more effective striker, I'd say. Merab had his moments, but Petr Yan was just more effective. On the ground, Yan more effective, able to win in exchanges that were more effective and meaningful. And just shutting down the takedowns of Merab, you kind of expected that portion. Merab is always, the ratio of his success to attempts is always pretty lopsided. Yes. He's always, I think last night he was like 2 for 29 or something like that. But you expect that, and you're like, oh, that's just Merab. Those are his numbers. But it didn't look good because he got taken down at times, and the ratio was like, I can't remember what the number was, but it was just pretty lopsided. And Petr Yan looked masterful last night. He looked great last night. And he did it against a very effortful Merab.
Yes. Now, there's certain game plans. I can't really put my finger on it, but I love seeing it. It's almost like you're daring your opponent to beat you with something. Like Petr Yan was making Merab beat him with boxing. This is what we're doing tonight. Come in, let's see what you got with it. And it kind of, you said exposed. It exposed, for lack of a better word, how sloppy Merab's striking was. There was nothing really clean. It was moving his head. And then even because that wasn't clean, he was losing the striking exchanges. It made his takedowns that much slower. and then Piotr made him pay before and after those takedown attempts. He kind of was going old school with timing the uppercuts on coming in, and it was exposed to everything like you said. And then even in the third round, he wasn't even defending Piotr's takedowns. He was jumping guillotine a lot, and he was really trying to just get those comfortable moves in. And it was just very, you could tell, like, ooh, this is different tonight. I think that he's going to have to come from behind. And when was the last time he had to do that?
The wild thing about fights like this is that everything that Merab did last night worked against other people
Yeah.
because the pace and the pressure would melt guys and they would fold underneath him and he'd be able to take advantage of them and then just kind of have his way. Last night, Petr Yan showed that it's never, and this is a hard sell for people, for me when I'm with people, but it's never a battle of your conditioning versus my conditioning. It's never really that. And we tend to think it's that because we see fights like Merab where he doesn't get tired and the other guy gets tired, and we assume that. But last night, Petr Yan said, I don't have to be in better shape than you. I just have to be better than you for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what he did. He was better than him for 25 minutes. He battered him up within that time period and just looked fantastic doing it. And again, and Merab didn't necessarily look bad. Like, it wasn't that he just beat him up and Merab looked bad. He just looked so good doing what he was doing. The jab was on point. The right hands were on point. Takedown defense was on point. His balance looked incredible when he was on one leg. Even when he was partially getting taken down, his ability to just be like a cat, get back to his feet, breaking grips from behind, like everything that he was doing, like you could tell that he had prepared for the last couple of years for this moment. And it all came to fruition. And he's got to be proud of the work that he put in and everything that he was looking forward to that seemed to be in full execution last night.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's going to be a rematch. And like you said, like it wasn't like Merab looked bad. He just got beat. Like I don't know what happens in the rematch. Can Merab, because I lean Piotr after last night. Can Merab, can he adjust? And because there's, I'm sure he can, but will he? I don't know. Like, because last night it's funny because Piotr's fight style is where I was wrong about his lack of activity, so to speak, is he's using that as rest spots. So when he has that output, he's always going to be able to match Merab's output in those exchanges because he's going to reset and regain his grounding during those rest stops where he's not using activity. So I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a rematch. I don't know.
Well,
what do you do if you're Merab and Merab's team? Like,
it's got to be, you got to be able to make the adjustments. The things that, see, this is why it's tricky with Merab because the things that he's gotten better at that worked against everybody else didn't work last night.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't able to make the adjustments on the fly.
Yep.
And to me, that's more so of a condition of your training because Merab, you can tell the way Merab trains, it's so effort is probably the priority in his training. I'm doing these 5 rounds, I'm doing these 10 rounds, whatever it is. So it's all about effort and not necessarily working on very specific things. And when you don't have specific things to work on, you can't really identify what you're doing that's working or not working to be able to change it when you need to, because
Yes.
when your bread and butter is just like go, 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 something's eventually going to fall into place. But when you say we need to throw the jab to the head outside single, high crotch, switch to the double off that high crotch, that's a very specific move. And we say,
Absolutely.
okay, that's not working. So now let's go head inside single.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very specific move. But a guy like Merab who's just like, I'm going to throw all this stuff at you and eventually something's going to work. But when you're more specific about it and you can make adjustments and say, all right, now we got to fake this one specific thing to get that thing. I don't know if Merab is capable of that just based on his energy system and the way he approaches fighting.
Mm-hmm. If I'm playing Monday morning quarterback, I think the game plan is how do you get Yan to open up? But you're gonna have to have some patience with that, whether it's throwing feints, punching with Yan, moving your head with punches to punch with Yan. And I like how you said single, double, because I know that we're very big on how good Merab's wrestling is, and by we I mean everybody. But to your point, Merab's always high volume takedown attempts and low success rate for the most part. I think that's because you don't see him going like a Kobe, like single double high crotch, single double high crotch body lock, like the chain and stuff together. He's either driving you against the cage with double leg, or he's trying to get some kind of sweep with the single leg. Even with his run the pipe positions, you kind of see he's kind of like straight back. He's kind of just waiting for the mistake to happen, so to speak. So if he could do that, if he can get him to open up, or if he can actually chain wrestle and leg pummel, probably have a little more success, not just against Yan, but other fights as well.
Yeah. So when you compare him to somebody like not Ilya, but Islam, who's very
Mhm.
systematic, he could probably make those adjustments on the fly, and
Yes.
just that's on the fly, and then in rematches be like, all right, this is probably going to give me a higher success rate than just going and going and going until that other person gets tired, and then it allows me to do more. Fight certain fighters like that, like even in that, well, a lighter division, I was thinking like Muhammad Mokaev, who's very good at that. Just like his shots were always so clean. Like
Yeah.
whatever shot that he was, you knew exactly what the shot was because it was always so clean. Like it was always like this clean double leg running the pipe or this clean double leg driving through, but you knew exactly what he was trying to do from its inception.
Yep. I yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, he seems healthy. He's tweeting. He's just, I'm sorry I lost, and who knows? I mean, he likes to stay active. Jan, not as much, but I'm sure they would like to run that one back to UFC. It's a trilogy, right? I'm forgetting.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be a trilogy. I think it's definitely one you have to run back. I don't know who to lean towards because they were completely different fights, and you just
Yeah.
like after watching last night, you start to think to yourself like, how did Jan lose to him the first time? Like, how was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
even
Like, really,
possible?
what changed? What
Yeah,
changed?
yeah. Like,
That's
how
why
did
it's
how did this happen? Yeah, but I look forward to the rematch of that. Jan is going to be a great champion. He's a fun, friendly champion in terms of easy to watch.
yes.
'Cause he's got the ability to knock you out, and it's easy to watch. And he's got a style that's easy on the eyes. So I think he'll be a great
Mhm.
champion while he's holding the belt if he has to fight somebody else. Marab was a fun champion because we learned to love his character
Yeah.
and we learned to love what he was doing inside the octagon. But we're the bantamweights are still in a good place. Speaking of bantamweights, I do have to bring up Peyton Talbot.
Mm. I
Man,
hope we are gonna get to that.
let's get into that right now because man, did he open my eyes to how good he was. He's never looked better, and he made Henry look good. He brought out a really great performance in Henry. Despite Henry's legendary career, I thought this was Henry's best fight. He
Yeah.
turned the crowd. He turned the crowd mid-fight. Mid-fight, the crowd is chanting, "Go Henry!" It was
Mhm.
amazing to see the crowd get behind Henry in his final fight. But Peyton Talbot is definitely a threat in the division. I think his athleticism, his speed, and his comfortability is going to be enough for anybody to deal with in that division.
Yeah. So I really liked how. I mean, we always knew that kid had the tools. We always knew, but whether it was the fight IQ or execution, we had our doubts, especially after he lost to Helani Barcelos. Um, this fight, I felt his execution and his fight IQ, or at least his game planning, his discipline of his game planning. Yeah, that's more of that than fight IQ, was on point. Especially in the first round, the way he made Henry fight extended, which opened up so much. Just keep well, I mean, Henry kind of has the stance as it is, but um, Peyton was just so good at just keeping it similar to what we were talking about with Jan, just keeping it straight, keeping Henry extended, which eventually led to the takedowns that he landed on the Olympic world champion, and just did a lot of damage there. And then just the way, and like you said, Henry, it was the thing that was so cool about this thing with Henry is like it's hard. Like in pro wrestling, they when somebody leaves a federation or an organization goes to the next one, it's customary to pass the torch, obviously, and like you drop the belt or you lose to somebody who's coming up before you leave. Now, obviously, this wasn't like Henry just dropped the fight, but this was not an easy retirement fight by any stretch of the means. He could have fought somebody else, I'm sure. And he was willing. He did that for the UFC. He did that for Peyton, and he fought his ass off in doing so. To where the point, let's say he was going to get denied, which he wasn't going to last night, but he still would have made Peyton have promise and a bright future ahead of him. But yeah, just the way that Peyton was able to keep him extended, and then just when Henry really bit down on his mouthpiece to try to win exchanges, and Peyton was getting the better or even coming back in his own right, it was great. That was great for the UFC, great for the fans. Yeah, I kind of got off topic there, but yeah, I thought it was a great fight.
No, I wasn't sold on Peyton. Like after he lost to Barcelos, he's got a lot of holes. Then he came back and he beat Felipe Lima, who think very highly of. And Sal's Felipe's coach and was like, yeah, he stopped fighting for whatever reason. He stopped fighting. And I thought that it was more of an implosion of Sal than it was on how good Peyton Talbot was. But now that I look back, maybe it was just Peyton Talbot's pressure that forced him to fight bad.
Yeah,
And I'm going to give Peyton his props and be like, yo, you made a really good fighter look bad in Felipe Lima. And he stopped him in terms of his will to win. And then last night he completely shut out Henry. And Henry's never looked bad. His losses are to Aljamain and Merab. And he
yeah,
fought Song Yadong last year and looked pretty good before the eye poke. So I was thinking that Henry would go out there and shock him. I thought Henry's wrestling would be better. We saw he still had some scramble ability. And I thought that he'd be a little tougher on the feet in terms of like cleaner. He was not. He was overextended because Peyton Talbot fought him long. And I'm curious as to see how Peyton Talbot does against a guy like Corey Sandhagen or
yeah.
a great fight that I think that I could see the UFC putting together sooner rather than later, Sean O'Malley.
Ooh, I don't know. I think he's got a. Is there an in between there? I think that's a long. I guess you kind of have to. Um,
And what else are you doing? Sean is fighting in January, so maybe you do another Peyton Talbot fight in March, and then like, could you imagine like Peyton Talbot and Sean O'Malley at the White House? Like that makes sense to me.
yeah, it does. That's a great fight. What about Song Yadong? Who's he
Well,
fighting?
he's fighting Sean O'Malley.
Yeah. That's yeah. I guess that's the fight to make. I guess that's yeah. Well, I just feel like that's such a jump. Even Yadong would be a jump. But yeah, I guess after you beat Henry Cejudo, that's where you got to go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, after you beat Henry Cejudo, like, where do you go? I mean, you're in there with the big dog. You got to swim with the sharks now. You're in with the big dogs now. So that I'm thinking
So
very highly of his potential right now. So I'm throwing him up in there with some of the big
you,
dogs. But I
you
think
just
the
reminded
other
me.
go
You
ahead.
just reminded me real quick story. This is the only fight I've ever said no to, um, in my career. And yeah, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I never said no, but looking back, I would have been a little smarter on things. Um, but I remember I got offered Marcus Davis like within a year after he left the UFC, and I was ready to do it. I was going to fight him in Maine for Bellator, and the coaches at HT unanimously spoke to me and said, "We think you could beat him, but once you fight him and beat him, there's no step back. They're gonna." And I didn't want to. The person who was managing me at the time had the same opinion, and I was like, you know what? If everyone's saying this, I probably should just listen to them. In hindsight, I don't think it really mattered. Actually, a guy that took the fight knocked him out, and then I fought that guy 6 months later, and I beat him. but but that was the only fight, and there's something to that because I remember my third professional fight was with Bellator, and then after that, I there was no pick and fights for me. So
In hindsight, it worked out for you, but it was a it was a mistake.
yeah,
It was a mistake. In hindsight, it did work out, but it was a mistake because a win over Marcus Davis would have been better for you than a win over the guy who beat Marcus Davis.
yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
agree.
it still worked out for you. But in hindsight, it was a terrible idea because the idea is that you want to put yourself in a position to where you can't fight backwards. Like the
Yep,
goal is to keep going forward until it's just all about fighting for money.
yep. That's
So
I feel that way. I don't think I lose sleep on it anymore. I don't lose sleep on it anymore. But like, and this was shit 13 years ago. But 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 yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's probably one I should have just taken.
All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. The fight last night that had us all perplexed. The co-main event, Joshua Van and Pantoja. If you thought Joshua Van was going to win, bless your heart. No, not many people did. But the way he won, and it's not his fault. He should celebrate. I think he should celebrate it. He was put in a tough spot last night about
Mm.
how he needed to handle that win. But for Pantoja for that to happen to him, it's just so unfortunate because he was having a really good 10 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, dude. What was it like? Low kicks he was landing like, and I just, man, we didn't learn anything from that fight, which is unfortunate because there was a lot we wanted to learn from that fight. We wanted, and honestly, this sucks for Joshua Van because we had just talked last week how he was going to learn so much from this fight, one way or the other,
Mhm.
and now that put a halt to that by at least 6 months. At least 6 months. No matter if they have tied to no, what's his name? It's who beat Brandon Moreno?
Uh, Tights are tighter.
Tai Tai. Yeah, I was about to say Tai Tuivasa. Different weight class by one or two. But anyway, so like even if they put that fight in, like Josh, I was really looking forward for either Josh to win or fall forward in this fight, and he didn't get that opportunity. I mean, yeah, it's a shitty situation all around.
I'm I'm gonna pivot for a second. We'll get back to this if we want to.
Okay,
But Tights are tighter might be the best flyweight in the UFC.
I was flipping back and forth during football, and then I turned back and the fight was over. I was so mad. So you're gonna have to explain what happened.
Well, I mean, the first round was kind of a wash. It
Mm,
was kind of a weird exchange, and they got trapped up against defense in a reverse
mm,
triangle from Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno had him in a reverse triangle, and not a dangerous or threatening spot and they were up against defense, so neither of them had a lot of room to kind of wiggle out. So it was the first round was kind of a wash, and then the second round came and just tired of just man, he just took over, and he got Brandon Moreno's back and just pounded him out. And it was a quick stoppage, but I don't see it. It was
I
just
didn't think it was a quick stoppage. I
really
saw the finish. I didn't
okay.
think it was quick. I look at it like this, and I mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but like I look at it like this now. Maybe it's because I'm older. I'm sympathetic with what these refs do. And when I see someone not responding after 10, 12 strikes, okay, you're flat. You're getting flat. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I don't, um, well, sometimes when they're building up to turtle, but I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad of a stoppage.
Well, for Mark Smith's sake, who's a good friend of mine, I'm glad you said that. I thought it was like for me, I thought it was quick, regardless of if he's my friend or not. But
Mhm.
I'm not getting on his case and like, how dare him do that?
Yeah.
It's not his fault. It's actually Brandon Moreno's fault for ending up in that position. Um, but Taira looked amazing. Like when he got even before that, just like his speed, his striking speed, the speed of his shots, like everything about what he was doing looked incredible. And he
Mhm.
looked like he might be the best flyweight in the world right now. Like between him and Kyoji, such great additions to the flyweight division. Like
Yeah.
it sucks that Pantoja's hurt right now because there's so many fun matchups that you can make right now in that division.
Man, I gotta tell you, I was gonna save this for the end, but we're gonna pivot from the pivot for a minute, and then we'll bring it back. The UFC is set up to have such a great 2026. There's so many matchups that we were bitching we didn't get over the last 4 or 5 months. We're gonna get all that under Paramount. We're gonna get all those fights under Paramount that the UFC wasn't gonna do with ESPN. There's so much to do with all these divisions, specifically this division that was kind of getting overlooked for a while. So let's bring it back. But I just wanted to say that how this is gonna be such a good year for the UFC.
It will be. And if they bring in Mohammed Mokayev, I just spoke about him. If they bring him in, like the flyweights are going to crush it if they bring him in because, with Manel Kopp, He's fighting Brandon Royval this next weekend.
Mhm.
If he can stay healthy and keep his focus on, get his shit together, he's still dangerous. Brandon Moreno still got some fight left in him, but obviously, like right now, I'm looking at uh Kyoji, Taita, Joshua Van's now the champ, Manel Kopp, yeah, Manel Kopp, and then when Pantoja gets healthy, I mean, this division is looking as strong as I've ever seen it.
Yeah, this is this is definitely gonna be the best flyweight divisions look. Definitely better. Even when they first brought in Demetrius Johnson, well, division never got the love it deserved during that time. But there's just so much to do with it. You could do so. I'm really looking forward to it. Who's the guy that
Yeah,
Demetrius Ian McCall?
Ian McCall.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is gonna be good stuff. I can't wait.
Yeah. What else happened? Yeah.
Oh, we'll go back to Josh Van and Pantoja. I
Okay,
said what I said. What do you,
Okay, Joshua Van Pantoja. Yeah, so I just think that Joshua Van was kind of put in a tough spot because you don't want to celebrate. It was hard for him to want to celebrate, but I actually think he should celebrate because he earned the right to fight for it,
yeah,
and it took. And he beat people in a short amount of time. He earned the right to fight for it. He walks out with it. He should celebrate. Um, but it's kind of tough when you got a man who hurt himself in the process, you know. So, but I just think he was kind of in a tough spot. But very unfortunate, unpredictable, crazy end to a fight. The whole crowd, like, and they kept showing it over and over, and I'm like, yo, stop
yeah,
showing
yeah.
this, man.
I
I'm
said the
going. I'm
same
like,
thing. I'm like, we get it, we get it, we get it. Stop. Like, I was really surprised at that.
ESPN was like, yo, they was like, fuck it, we not with y'all no more. Show it
Yeah,
again.
yeah. We don't want nobody watching this shit.
Yeah, man, I was like, yo, stop showing this. But I was, but like the whole card in itself, like I was talking to John Anik today, and he's like, yeah, man, we didn't get you in a lot last night. I was like, man, every fight ended in the first round.
Hmm. Yeah. Even what was that fight I want to touch on? Ibu Baranowski and Iwo Asan.
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so even though that was a short fight, there was a lot to unpack there. Like I loved how they both needed to finish exchanges, and that's why it was just one giant exchange. And it was just there was some wrestling too, but they both needed to finish exchanges, and that's why I went. But that was so cool.
I'm wondering if Dana gave. I mean, like when that fight happened, it was what the second fight of the night, and I mean, it electrified the T-Mobile Arena. And we just from that moment on, we're like, yo, ain't no fight going to top this. And
Yeah.
I'm still not sure anyone did, but the fights were all so good that I'm sure Dana and them were happy and just like Dana's probably like, yo, I'm giving you a bonus. I'm giving you a bonus. I'm giving you a bonus because a lot of dudes really showed out last night. And to me, it was a good night for the UFC in terms of spectators. Like if you're not a UFC fan and you watched last night, I think you would have been a fan afterwards.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it had everything. It had everything.
Yeah, it had everything. Good storylines and like the only what fight went
Well,
to the
you know what?
distance.
You know why else it was great, Dean? Because it had everything except for the huge names, minus Merab.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now you're seeing these athletes, there's other good fighters outside of the John Jones, the Conor McGregors, like so. It's great. It was a great night for the UFC.
Well, and that's even better when it has everything except the huge names because then when people watch, they recognize that we don't need the huge
Yes,
names to be entertained.
exactly, exactly. That's why I think it was so good. That's why I think
Yeah,
it was such a good night for the UFC.
yeah. I loved it. I loved last night was a lot of fun. It was a good time. Um, I stood up Joe Rogan, man. I feel bad about that. He asked me to go to dinner, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll pull up." And then, like, I ended up not going.
You big time Joe Rogan.
A
Wow.
big time Joe Rogan,
Damn.
but like, like people were like, "What the hell you think you're doing?" But man, I was tired, and it's a lot. It's a lot of work, man. You show up to that arena, man. It's early, all that energy, man. But by the time the fight's end, man, I'm just ready for bed, man. So I
Yeah, I
was
hear
like,
that. I mean, I wasn't even there, and I was ready for bed.
yeah. But I got a pretty busy this week. This week I got UFC BJJ on Thursday. Do you get a chance to watch those?
I haven't yet. I will be watching it this week though because I'm upset that I'm missing them. I think they're great. Um, yeah. Are they all? They've all been in Las Vegas?
Yeah, they've all been at the Apex, and they're all good too. I think the rule set makes jiu-jitsu interesting.
Yeah.
And as a commentator for that, I think I figured it out now because it's a tricky way to navigate because you have to try to make a lot of masters happy. You're trying to please a lot of different people. And I think the least person I want to please are the jiu-jitsu nerds because they are the smallest population. Maybe the loudest, but the
And you'll
smallest.
never please them. You'll never
Yeah,
please them.
the smallest population. And you get a name wrong or you call an outside ashi a
Oh,
top side ashi, then they get all butthurt. But I think that they're the smallest population. And the idea is that we're trying to really bring jujitsu to the masses. So
yes.
I've been really focusing on how to present as a commentator the moves in a way that it's more palatable for people to digest.
I think that's really smart because those jujitsu people, they're gonna put it on mute and watch it anyway, or they're watching with all their buddies. They're only gonna pay attention to something they can pick apart on you on. So they're gonna find something to shit on you about anyway, if you haven't noticed. But I think that's way because jujitsu, there's a lot to offer and it's growing now, and we want to see that we want to speak to the people that are on the fence, and make those boundaries a little bit wider.
Yeah, I kind of, it sucks because I've always considered myself a jujitsu guy. I got into this for jujitsu,
Hmm.
and no one is more annoying than jujitsu guys.
Yeah.
And it's like the UFC is putting jujitsu on and trying to really elevate it in a way that they can bring it to the masses and make them look good. And all they do is complain. And I'm thinking, like, if it wasn't for the UFC, I asked somebody this recently, I say, how do you guys even market jujitsu these days? And they told me, well, like the UFC or like Joe Rogan. And it amazes me how like that's what really attracts people to jujitsu. But once you get in there, it's like this cult of these intellectuals to think they're better than everybody.
Well, this is where they could think they're better than everybody. Well, look at a lot of jujitsu people. They get into jujitsu because they're not doing anything else. They weren't really all that in high school. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. But
No, it's true.
but so this is their security. This is their bubble. And you got to. This is where you got to come to me now. Like I think that's what it kind of is. That's what it kind of is.
Come to me now. I'm smarter. I always say this is my thing for everything. Like, all right, use your jujitsu on my jujitsu. I will punch you in your face.
Yeah, yeah.
How
No, that's
about
not
that?
jujitsu.
Yeah. How about that? I'll just punch you in your face.
Actually, there's been another fight going on in sports media that it really has nothing to do with MMA, but I think it's juicy nonetheless. That I just got word of like last night and this morning. Um, Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. So like, well, they used to host First Take together, like
I
up until like
remember.
so. I heard rumors that it was a bad breakup. I didn't look into it, but I guess Max Kellerman said something on a recent podcast somewhere. He said they asked why did you think Stephen A didn't want you on? And he said, what did he say? He goes, would you want to spar with Muhammad Ali 15 rounds for every day? Like if this was a fight, if this way would so basically saying like Stephen A just couldn't handle what he brought. He made some corny joke like Muhammad Ali or Muhammad Kellerman or something like that. But and then Stephen A just kind of laughed it off, like, are you joking? Like and I'm like, damn, they really don't like each other, those two. I had no idea. I thought it was
That's
juicy.
news to me. I
Yeah,
love this. That's news to me.
yeah, that's what I was like. It was like I look at it like this. I used to be a huge First Take fan, and I was a very big Max Kellerman fan too. Actually, when he first came on, so I'm using our platform. I just think it's so interesting. I love all this bullshit. But so when he first came on, I was like, Stephen A. is going to smoke him. Stephen A. is going to smoke him. They were pretty good. Like he went back to Stephen A. But Max Kellerman is an absolute connoisseur when it comes to boxing and combat sports. He really knows his shit. So he's got to be appreciative of timing is everything. He got there a few months before the Mayweather-McGregor fight happened, or when all that. So that was a big conversation in sports that he could lean on a lot, that ESPN leaned on him a lot with. So he really, timing was very important for him. I think that he needs to respect that when it comes to his with Stephen A. Smith. But I felt he was stronger at Stephen A. in baseball. I felt he edged him. No, I felt Stephen A. edged him in basketball. I called it even in football. But I think that's where that was. Anyway, I just found that interesting. I'm finding out all news about this now. It's juicy. I love that tea. So,
well, we obviously love confrontation. That's why this is called Fight Court.
Yeah.
Lastly, I got Gillian Robertson this weekend fighting Amanda Lemos on that Manel Top Brandon Royval card. So it's a pretty good card. I'm actually working the desk on that too. The UFC loves when I wear multiple hats in a setting. They love me changing clothes real fast and doing a different job. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Gillian. She's been working really hard to get these opportunities. And like we spoke of earlier with you, she's in a position to now continue to keep moving forward with her opponents. And this is the most forward opponent she's faced and the best opponent that she's faced, coming off a win over Marina Rodriguez, I think was her last opponent.
Yes,
so,
I think you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but now Amanda Lemos, she's super dangerous, fast, strong. So got our work cut out for us this weekend, but we've been working for this moment. So we'll see how that goes.
I feel good about it. I feel good about it.
And the next time you hear from me, I'll be discussing the victory on how we were able to achieve it. So, Ryan, anything else?
Oh, that's it. We got our tea in. We talked last night's fights. We previewed Gillian a little bit. We're good to go.
Cool. Well, you enjoy your week. I will catch up with you when I get back to Florida. And keep everything safe. And your beard looks better than mine now, I'll admit. So keep that thing.
That could all change by next week. You're like me, where it's like it's salt and pepper one week and then it's black the next. Like it's the weirdest thing.
Well, if you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. On that note, this court is adjourned.